Guys, we're back to have a look at the other 6 crayons that I didn't have a look at. Again, you can buy them here at Big Bad Toy Store. Links everywhere floating around this page, I'm sure. So, let's get on and have a look at the final 6 of this Wave 1. Obviously, Toy Fair's just happened, so we've seen future waves as well, which are looking pretty badass. But let's see how this wave fares, and I'll give you my overall thoughts of this wave as a whole. So let's go straight into it, shall we? So here are the last 6 of the first wave of the crayon figures. We have Arachnid, Blastoff, Dirge, Springer, Warpath, and Singe. Yep, Singe. And speaking of Singe, we may as well start off with him and look at his articulation. Just to remind those who may not have seen part 1, it is worth mentioning he has some really cool accessories. These are flamethrowers, obviously, with these really cool fiery bits on. I really do like these. They're really cool little accessories. Giant flamethrowers are always a must for Autobots. In terms of articulation, you know, what you can do is pop the head off and obviously turn it left and right. I find is the easiest way to pose the head. And you just plop that back on the way it goes. The arms are on a ball joint, so they can go out and all the way around. The little diddy hands are on their own little joint as well, so they can turn all the way around. So you can have them at different angles. The waist does turn. I've talked about the problems there. The problem with Singe here is this big red pit is in the way, but you can pull it off and then readjust him and do all that articulation goodness, as you would expect. If you want to see what the problem was with this joint, look to the previous video. His legs go out because they're on ball joints and they move outwards as well, so they're really quite articulated. So you can have them in, I don't know, a yippee pose, and maybe they dance around saying yippee. With flames in the hands and whatnot. And speaking of accessories, it's worth mentioning Blastoff's gun here, which is pretty cool. We have the standard blaster here, with these 2 parts added on to make to give it a nice, unique look, very much like Quick Sling or whatever his name was, the aerial bot. I mean, that's pretty much the gun you'd expect to get right there as we focus. And it's quite nice, but just adding these 2 parts makes it a bit more oomphy, and it looks much more different, which is good. It's good to have variety in your weaponry, I would say. And of course you do get the Kre-o bricks with each of these, so that's always good. And as with the previous 6 figures, they each have their individual chests underneath the armor pieces, so let's have a look at them. We have Warpaths looking quite cool. I don't mind it being over the top because it's kind of a cannon-y effect, so it kind of makes sense. Springer, very G1-y. Not amazing to look at, could have done with a bit more colour. Dirge, he's okay, a bit off-centered, but whatever. Blastoff's who you can see because of his part, which is pretty nice. Arachnid's very similar to the Insecticon, and Singe really could have done with a lot more yellow to it. I think a yellow body would have really helped that guy out. And if you want the example that I gave before to get your little guys to show their chests, this part here is obviously the armor bit where the accessories go on, or the wings and whatnot, and this is the bit that I use personally, and I'm using it from this little Lego Star Wars dude, and I'm sure you can probably pick them up at, I don't know, Lego stores, so let's take that away and fiddle around with it, and boom! There you go, you've got the bits on the back, and you can actually see the detail on the front, which is much better. But what you can do as well, if you're a crazy Canadian with a knife, you can get your armor piece, and as I mentioned, a knife, and just like slice your fingers off, and get get it done that way as well. But unless you're a evangelist and you're insane, I would personally not go with a knife because I'm not insane. I don't like the sight of my own blood everywhere, most days. Oh, and I really feel I should mention, it's Scorch, not Singe, Scorch. Call him Scorch, that's who it is, not Singe. Stupid Singe, it's Scorch. Scorch is awesome, FYI. I will turn them to the vehicle modes off screen because it's faffy and won't look very dynamic. And here they are, the first 3 that I'm going to have a quick look at, and I have done slight modifications to them, so I think they look a bit better. Arachnid here in the spider form. It's quite good. I would have preferred a more bug-like face. I did take the legs off here because otherwise the legs are just kind of, you know, shoved on there, and doesn't look great. It'd be nice if you could get some kind of, I think it's a thorax, a big-ass butt. That would be a nice piece to get in the future, just to spider her out a bit more, but that's how I transform her. Dirge, you follow instructions, I should say. All I do is turn the head round and that's about it. He's fine the way he is. It could have done with a bit more colour to it, but I would say he's fairly successful for a plane. He looks like he should do. Warpath looks a lot more convincing than, say, Bludgeon. I just took his head off here, and it kind of works. I mean, you can tell it's a tank. It's not the most convincing of tanks, but this little block on the top really helps it give a much more tanky look than Bludgeon, unfortunately, for poor Bludgeon. But let's move these 3 away and get the next 3 up. And those 3 are, of course, Scorch. Remember, it's Scorch. Blast Off. I keep wanting to call him Vortex, but it's not. And Springer. And again, I have done some slight modifications to at least 2 of these to just make them a little bit better. Blast Off here, I've popped the arms off just to make him a lot more sleek. I think that looks better. He's got thrusters, which is kind of nice, and he does have quite a good rocket look. He could have done with some paint maybe on the top of his head, just to make it more rockety. Scorch here, I would say is fairly convincing. I can see his giant head here as like an engine block. I love the fact that the flames are coming off the back. It just looks fairly solid to me as a car, to a point. You know, I'm not like, oh god, that's a real car. Springer here, I turned the legs to the side and put this part there to give it a more slender look and pop the arms off as well. I think it looks much more like a helicopter now. And of course I turned the head around. And so I think Springer can look quite nice if you fiddle with him. And I love the propellers on him. I think it's really, really kind of sweet. So all these guys, I would say, yes, they're not the best vehicle modes, but what do you expect? The tiny Kreons. Don't expect these to be masterpiece levels of transformation, you know? And that's it, guys. All 12 of the very first wave of the Kre-on figures, not including the previous 6 from the preview wave. I personally really enjoy them a lot. They have a lot of character to them, and they do a lot more than LEGO minifig blind packs, which I think cost about the same in America as they do here in the UK. Yes, they do have some problems still to work out, for instance the alt modes, but from Toy Fair and other events we've seen that they're getting better and better and getting much more convincing vehicle modes, I feel. And they're also sorting the issue out about the chests not being visible, it seems, on top of that, so that's even better. And personally, I'm dying to get my hands on the combiners. They're not out in the UK as of yet, apart from one shop in Derby, which is bizarre. But as soon as I get my hands on them, I'm going to take some videos of them because they look really good and I don't think they're going to disappoint. And of course, you can get them as well as the single packed figures at BBTS. So why not go there and build a better future with me, people? Until next time, I hope to hear that you've been building towards that glorious future in the sky with Kre-on bricks, with an amalgamation of Lego bricks. It's funny, because it's a building pun, I think. It's not a good joke. Not at all.